All right, everybody, welcome back to the Kerrville United Studio. Again, my name is Aaron Yates, and we're in the studio this evening for a couple of interviews leading up to the City Council election of 2019. I won't go through the whole spiel that I did at the last video explaining about early voting, but I will remind you that early voting does start on Monday, April 22nd at the Callow Theater. It runs through April 30th, minus the weekend, and then the election day is Saturday, May the 4th. All of that voting during both of those time periods happens at the Callow Theater in downtown Kerrville. Again, we just want to invite everybody to come out and increase that voter turnout number that we had from the same race in 2017. Want to make sure that everybody knows that these elections are very important to their day-to-day lives, and encourage everybody to learn about the candidates as much as they can, learn about the issues, and make a plan to go out and vote during the early voting period or on election day. So to get into our special presentation this evening, tonight I have with us a candidate for place one, and that's Mr. Gary Cochrane. So Gary, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you being here.
You bet. I'll get right to it. I want to say, the place one race is a little bit different than the place two race because we have two candidates that both have some public service experience. Your opponent has served in place two for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. He's now running for place one, so he has that experience. You've served in various capacities, including on the Economic Improvement Corporation, where you were also the chair of that corporation for a while. So we have two guys that have a lot of public service on their resume. So tell us a little bit about your background. What else kind of prepares you for a seat on council?
Well, again, I think you have to go back. Kerrville's just a very, very important part of my life. I was born here, I was raised here, I raised my family here. I've been in business here for the last 40 years. I've invested my own personal heart and soul into this community, both economically and spiritually. As part of that process, I've served on the Parks and Recreation Board. I was president of the Parks and Recreation Board back when I was very young. I've served on many, many committees in the church. I've been on the Walk to Emmaus, the board of Walk to Emmaus. I've served, as you said, on the EIC. As part of that, I also served on the Kerr Economic Development Council as the EIC representative there, so I was actively involved in recruiting businesses. I was also very active through the Board of Realtors, which is my current profession, and came up through the ranks and served as board there. All that goes just to saying is just that I've had a lot of experience in working with other groups of people to move organizations forward.
Very good. The first campaign finance reports came out a few weeks ago, and you and Mrs. Clarkson raised far and above more than your opponents raised as far as money goes.
That's correct.
So that's kind of helped advance the narrative that your opposition has put forward, that you and Clarkson are the candidates of the elite or the wealthy candidates. Mm-hmm. And how do you respond to that narrative?
It's really interesting, and I wish people could see exactly how that takes place, because I would tell you that as far as me going out and soliciting funds, I've asked maybe 2 or 3 people of my close friends if they would contribute. By far and away, the lion's share of the funds that I've accumulated have come to me unsolicited. These are people, I think, that are dissatisfied with the current situation, and they care enough about Kerrville to support me. So it's not that I've gone out there and raised this amount of money. It's very humbling. It's a little overwhelming, and it certainly is. It puts a little bit of a burden on me to make sure that I represent everybody. And those funds have not only come from the wealthy. We've gotten tons of $25 donations from everybody across town. But the numbers have been, not only has it been a lot of money, but it's been a lot of supporters. So again, I think what I take out of that is those are unsolicited. I have not gone out there and tried to raise those funds.
Another thing kind of goes along with that, there's been some concern that if you were elected and if Kim gets elected, there are 4 people that are more or less related to the real estate industry that will all be on council at the same time. Is that a bad thing?
I found that fascinating. I would tell you that's been the greatest eye-opener to me through this campaign. I didn't realize that being associated with the real estate business was basically a negative item. It's a profession. I asked people, would it be different if it's 4 airline pilots? I've never even considered that to be an example of something that would keep me from wanting to be a part of city council or any of the boards. It's my profession. It's what I work hard. I'm very proud at it, of what I do. I've worked many, many years to get to where I am. Lots of education to get to where I am. So I don't that one really befuddles me, why that's become an issue. Part of that, I think, is because there's not a lot of other issues for my opposition to kind of latch onto. So that's just one that they were able to kind of focus on and get people riled up about. Mm-hmm. But no, short answer to your question, I can't, in my wildest imagination, see how it's going to further my economic situation because I'm a real estate broker sitting on the city council.
Another thing that the opposition may have either latched onto, to use that word, is they kind of started, some of their door-to-door people started painting you guys as not conservative, or they said that their candidates are the only conservatives in the race, the only Republicans in the race. How do you respond to that kind of a narrative?
Well, first of all, I think it's a shame. We've heard, well, let me just state right up front, please check the voting record. I voted in the Republican primaries in the previous years. I've been a conservative Republican my entire life. My parents were both conservative Republicans. I've voted Republican almost exclusively for the last 30 years. So to me, it's a non-issue. It's a shame that that came out because, in my opinion, the City Council of Kerrville is not about being conservative or Republican. It's about doing what's right for the citizens of Kerrville. We're not deciding important philosophical issues, constitutional issues. That's not what we're here. We're here to make sure people have clean water, that we've got money in the bank in the future, that we're prepared if a big storm comes along and we have an issue. And those are not partisan issues. Those are just common sense, what's good for the greater number of people in the city.
Speaking of what's good for the greater good and all, one of the things that's been in the news lately also is kind of the financial position of the city, the debt that the city carries. You've had experience being on EIC, and you made some of the decisions that led to the city carrying some of the debt that it has now. So with that kind of as to frame it, is the city in a good financial condition, and what's your take on the city's debt currently?
Sure. And first of all, I think it's very easy to sit on the sidelines and say, we've got too much debt, because it's a rallying cry. Everybody says, oh yeah, debt's no good, we don't want debt, we've got too much debt. But I think you have to dig a little bit deeper than that. And I've said before that, I've got a degree in finance, and I've been in business for myself. I've had businesses that had multi-million-dollar budgets. But let me tell you something, I'm not a financial expert. And what I've found that in leadership positions, what I have to do is I have to surround myself with people that are experts. And I have to trust them, I have to verify it, but for the most part, I have to listen and take their advice. And I think that's what the city's done. We've had the independent auditor every year that gives us glowing remarks. We get a great review. We're AA bond rated, as it's been spelled out many, many times. Do we have $60+ million of debt? Sure we do. But that has been a prudent way to grow the city in a fiscally responsible manner. And I think we're in excellent financial shape, and that's what our auditors tell us.
And so some of the projects you oversaw on the EIC, things like River Trail, I don't know if you were there for the sports complex, maybe the early years of that. There's been some debate, and there's been discussion at the previous forums that maybe the city shouldn't be using our economic development funds for quality of life projects. We should seek out other types of ways to use that money. How do you answer those questions?
Well, again, I think you have to go back and look what the legal standards are for the Economic Improvement Corporation. We can't use those funds to pave streets. We're prohibited from that by the legislature. We can use them for economic development, we can use them for infrastructure to encourage economic development, and we can use them for quality of life. I guess in a perfect scenario, we would split that money 3 ways equally. The challenge has been finding good economic development projects to spend that on. And we've spent some money. We've had some pretty good success with some of our economic development. Would I like to see more? Sure. But as far as the quality of life projects, it was fun, not so much at the beginning when we started the whole River Trail concept, because I remember the first day I sat down at the Economic Improvement Corporation was a vote for a $6 million bond. And I was like, holy cow, we're spending $6 million. And we heard all the negative remarks, and that'll never get used, and people, it's not going to be safe. And all I do is tell people, go down there today, count the number of people walking up and down that trail. You got to have people with vision. And luckily, we were fortunate in the River Trail, I think in the sports complex the same way, that we've had people with vision that see beyond tomorrow, see beyond the $6 million of debt or whatever, that what's good is good for the greater good of Kerrville.
The city has identified in their budget documents the possibility of adding a little bit more debt, maybe in the time that you would serve on council if you were to be elected. One of those projects may be a public safety complex. They talked about doing that as a bond issue that's up for election, a bond election. How would you handle if that was presented to you guys? What are the things you'd be looking for to see whether or not that's a good idea?
again, kind of a two-part answer. One, is there a need for that? And I would say yes, there is a need. I have visited with the police department. I've had a tour of their facilities. I've looked at the scattered facilities that we have with our Kerrville Fire Department. Extremely professional. They've certainly made the most of what they've got. But could they use a better facility? Yes, I think they could. Can we afford it? I don't know. I have not seen all the numbers. We don't have a number estimate. We don't have a cost estimate yet. We don't have a location yet. I can't tell you black and white that yes, I'm in favor of that. I think it's something we will have to evaluate. And I think that's the perfect example of the type of a project that's got to go out to the public. The citizens of Kerrville have to decide if those are priority issues and they're willing to borrow more money in order to see that happen. What I like to see is continue to keep the quality of staff that we have with our police and fire department. You betcha, because they're really, really good professional people. Would it change if we didn't go something like that? Again, I don't know. It's something we'd have to evaluate. Short answer is, whatever the citizens of Kerrville decide on a bond issue of that size, I'm perfectly fine with.
Another issue that comes up year after year, and it has been, going back 10 years plus, probably longer, is housing. And you can call it affordable housing or workforce housing or just housing low-cost housing that we can afford. Everybody from the chamber to the EIC and to the EDC all think that it's kind of an issue. So philosophically, what should the city do? And then in real terms, what can the city do if we decide we need to act?
Oh, philosophically, and that's where you kind of get into politics talk, is that, we need to encourage people, we need to help, we need to facilitate, we need to lay a framework, and we need to do all of those things. And nobody would disagree with that. I think everybody would like to have more affordable housing here. Even as a real estate broker, and I say this, I have been literally preaching this for 10 years, every chance that I've got, that we're in a crisis. And I've watched it slowly get worse and worse. And I can tell you all the statistics of what the average cost per square foot is, what the average median sales price is. But the bottom line is, it's for the average person to move here and try to buy a house is or to rent a house is extremely difficult and very burdensome on their budget. So solutions, there's no magic wand, we're going to fix it next year solution. The city, I believe, has to start taking initiative to expand its capacity. And we're working in that direction. The big holdup on the east side of town has been the Legion lift station. We're spending $6 million now to rebuild that station and greatly increase our capacity. I think there's areas of town that the city, over time, with the help of the EIC, maybe the water fund, that we can begin expanding water and sewer out to some of these areas. We've got 86 acres out on Peterson Farm Road. It's prime development land, in my opinion. The city could have some input on how that land and what type of housing goes into that via restrictions. But we've got to get water and sewer there. I don't think you can expect a developer to come to Kerrville and spend the $2 or $3 or $4 million to drag that water line and sewer line out to the front of that property. So that's kind of a specific example. Olympic Drive is another one. I think we've already made the commitment to put the road in and extend water and sewer, and I believe the city has about 23 acres that adjoins that. It's going to be a great area for development for housing. Builders want to build. That's what they do. You just got to give them a place to do it.
Will those type of utility extensions fall under the infrastructure for economic development category for 4B sales tax money?
I can't speak to that specifically. I think so. We've done certainly things like that in the past. We're extending water and sewer line out to on Thompson Drive to a development that's going out there. I know very early on in the EIC we extended it out Harper Road for some possible future development. So yes, I think it does. Again, when you take raw land and you put houses on it that pay property taxes, and you put new people in those houses that are paying property taxes that didn't go to the grocery store and spend money and buy sales or spend sales tax, then yes, I think it's economic development.
Switching gears just a little bit, in this race we have a lot of discussion about personalities almost as much as we talk about some of the issues. I think there's differences in style and approach, and I think that's some of the contrast that we're able to draw between you and your opponent and between the two opponents in the other race. So Mr. Baruti is the incumbent. Even though he's serving on place 2 and running for place 1, he's had the 2 years of experience in there. He has a record that we can look at. How do you contrast your approach to governing and your approach to dealing with other council members and dealing with staff compared to the way that he has approached the job in the last 2 years?
Probably polar opposite. And to be very honest with you, that was really the primary straw that broke my back, that caused me to say it's time for me to step up and take this position. I know a lot of the city staff. I've gotten to know them a lot better. I was embarrassed on their behalf the way they were being treated. I was embarrassed the way that our council meetings were being held. I was embarrassed by the lack of efficiency in dealing with issues that are 2 and 3 years old and then continually being brought back up and rehashed and rehashed. It's ineffective, it's inefficient, and it's expensive. So, specifically, all I can tell you is I go back to the way I was raised. My father sold life insurance in Kerrville for 40 years, and his mantra was just treat people the way that you want to be treated. It works. If you treat people with respect, they work harder for you. You get better ideas. They're more excited about what they do. You have to listen. You can't just tell people what to do. It's a teamwork. So both from a council standpoint and from a staff standpoint, I think you would, if elected or when elected, I really believe you're going to see a completely dynamic paradigm shift within the council chambers. I think it's going to become an area of positive reinforcement. There's going to be good energy that's coming out of that. So there's going to be exciting things that are happening for the city of Kerrville. And I don't think, again, not just with council, but especially with staff. I think the staff is tired.
One of the specific examples of style and the way that people do things, your opponent had brought it back up in the last city council meeting, so it's been back in the news with the Lotus Pier Recovery lawsuit last fall. He approached the opposing council. Council was alerted to that. They took action, including removing him as mayor pro tem and removing him from the future discussions about that lawsuit. Baruti now says he would have done things differently, but meant no harm. What do the voters need to take away from that whole scenario, and kind of what was your view of it from the outside looking in?
Well, and again, I was very, very proud of our city council, the three voters on our city council that stood up to Mr. Baruti and his attorney and just said, no, you made a mistake, and we understand it was a mistake. And I really love the comment that this really doesn't have anything to do with Mr. Baruti. He made a mistake. He violated the trust. It has to do with the citizens of Kerrville. The city council's role is to protect those citizens. And even though it may not be a popular decision, it may be a hard decision, that's what they did. They did the right thing to protect the citizens of Kerrville in that lawsuit. Trust is not something that you just give back. It has to be earned. And I've learned that long time ago. They don't hand it out. It's something that you spend years and years developing and gaining that trust. And once it's gone, it's gone. It's very difficult to regain trust again. So yes, I think the council did exactly what they should have done. It's interesting to me that the sanction only applies to that one lawsuit and the mayor pro tem position, which is really pretty minor in my opinion. The mayor pro tem doesn't have a lot of title or strength. And to be excluded from the decisions or the discussion in that one single lawsuit seemed like a pretty minor sanction for the scope of what he did.
So we've talked up to now mainly about hindsight, things that have happened in the past, and what are your priorities going forward though? How do you see the things happening in the next couple of years if you were to take office? What would be some of your future priorities?
I think a lot, they're going to be similar to what everybody is. We want to see housing. We've touched on housing already. I still want to see the quality of life projects continue to move forward as we can, if we can afford to. I'd love to see the river trail extended further back into downtown. I'm a big proponent of water. Again, being from here for many years and being involved in ranching for many years, I know the importance of water. I've watched other towns across the state and the nation wither up literally because they didn't do good water planning. We're blessed that we've had forefathers that have done some pretty incredible things, but we've still got a lot of work to do. There's still a lot of opportunity. So, water, housing, quality of life, I think those are my three. Again, there's a ton of issues out there. Infrastructure, absolutely. Everybody knows we need more streets, and the city's working hard on that. I want to continue to do that, to do everything that we can. But I would say, in a big picture scenario, it's housing and water.
Those are all. The last question has to do along with the future of Kerrville. The citizens identified a lot of their priorities through the Kerrville 2050 comprehensive plan that was added last year. How should the council use that document moving forward as they start to make decisions?
Well, I think we have to use it just the way it was designed to be used. It's a citizen inputted roadmap. I can drive to Dallas in about 4 different ways. And halfway to Dallas, I may decide I want to go to Denton instead. And that's what it's designed for. It's designed to set a goal out there. I've been in sales all my life. I live my life by goals. I think you don't get anywhere unless you're trying to get somewhere. This gives us a goal to reach. Is it going to change? Gosh, I hope so. I hope we look at it again next year and go, man, we've already surpassed that. We need to push that goal out even further. You know what? Technology's changed. We don't need to go this route. We need to go this route. So it's going to be something that we review. But how exciting is it for us to sit there? Again, I like lists, and I like to check things off lists. And when I see those things come up on the city council agenda, it's like, bam, we just accomplished another one of our goals. Mm-hmm. We're moving forward toward that goal. I think that's a great sense of accomplishment for the city. We've just got to continue to keep that same format and make sure it's citizen driven.
Very good. Those are the last questions that I had for you, but I want to give you an opportunity to address the voters or talk about anything else that we didn't have a chance to discuss tonight. So.
You know, I just asked for your vote. I'm working hard. I want to work hard for you. There's been a lot of, I guess, press that I don't represent all the people of Kerrville, and I would tell you that's just not true. I listen to everybody. That's what we're voted in to do, elected to do. We represent all the citizens, not just a select few. And I just give you my pledge. That's what I'm here to do. It's important to me. And I would ask for your vote in the upcoming election.
Well, I want to thank Mr. Cochrane for being with us this evening. We really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know it's coming to the end of the campaign, and it's been a long one, several months long, so we appreciate your service and your willingness to serve in that volunteer position. Just want to remind everybody once again, early voting starts this Monday, April 22nd. You need a picture ID. If you have a voter registration card, that'll make it even easier, but don't be discouraged if you don't have one. If you live within the city limits of Kerrville, you get to vote for both place 1 and for place 2. We don't have districts or precincts or anything like that, so you'll get to cast a ballot for each candidate that you want to support. Again, all the voting takes place at the Callow Theater, and then after early voting is over, back to the Callow Theater again on Saturday, May the 4th for Election Day. Again, we will be back with you with some more information on the campaign and the elections and the candidates as we have it here on Kerrville United, and we want to thank you for watching.